All right, we have some breaking news on this Tuesday. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. My name is Chase Sr., and it's news that we've been expecting for a little while. The New Orleans Saints are hiring Eagles offensive coordinator Kellen Moore as their next head coach. Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network breaking this news just moments ago on this Tuesday morning as we sit here on this February 11th, a couple of days removed from the Eagles Super Bowl 59 victory that Kellen Moore played a hand in, and Pelissero saying this, that the Saints finalizing a deal with Moore as their next head coach. General manager Mickey Loomis called the other candidates today to deliver the news, and at age 36, coming off a Super Bowl win, Moore gets his shot to run the show in the Big Easy, where the Eagles just won Super Bowl 59. The Saints waited for Kellen Moore to finish that Eagles playoff run, ending in a victory inside the Superdome, and after flying back to Philadelphia with the team, Moore now will return to New Orleans as the team's new head coach. Lot to get to here, including my top candidates and other candidates who I think the Eagles could interview here to replace Kellen Moore. But this is why you subscribe to the channel, because when Eagles breaking news happens, I always have you covered right here on this show, and that's a big reason why we're humming right now, as Eagles Now is well over 110,000 subscribers. And this all happens despite Nick Sirianni's best efforts. He was on the stage hoisting the Lombardi Trophy, getting interviewed in the aftermath of that demolition of the Chiefs, and he said, "Kellen, let's run this shit back." The Eagles are going to be able to bring back Vic Fangio, of course, top defensive coordinator in the game. I think he unseats Steve Spagnuolo as the top DC in the sport, but the Eagles are going to lose Kellen Moore here. We've known that this is coming for weeks. It was the best unkept secret in the National Football League over the last few weeks. And this was all different, by the way, than the Jonathan Gannon situation during the 2022 season, because Kellen Moore and the Saints were transparent. We knew Moore was going to go to New Orleans. We had no idea that Jonathan Gannon back in 2022 was going to leave as the Eagles defensive coordinator to take the Cardinals head coaching job. The Eagles thought that Gannon was going to come back for 2023 as their DC. They were shocked at the news that he had an opportunity to become the Cardinals' next head coach. And during that Super Bowl week, he went behind their backs, interviewed with Arizona, and that's why the Cardinals got hit with the tampering charge. And Gannon, in that Super Bowl against Kansas City, coached like he had one foot out the door. One foot was in as the Eagles DC trying to plan to take down the Chiefs in that Super Bowl 57 game. One foot was out the door, though, in trying to assemble a staff to take with him to Arizona, and it showed in the Eagles' game plan. Eagles' defense was good in the first 30 minutes, but after halftime, Jonathan Gannon didn't make any adjustments, and he was pantsed by Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and that Chiefs team. Patrick Mahomes had one incompletion after halftime. It came on a throwaway. Yet here, Kellen Moore clearly had interest in taking the Saints head coaching job. The Saints had him as their top candidate all along, but Kellen Moore didn't let that distract him, and he was transparent and honest with Philadelphia here. And in the last two games, after the offense probably put forward in the wild card round and divisional round a C-level performance, Kellen Moore was in his bag in the NFC Championship game and in the Super Bowl. And the Eagles dominated Steve Spagnuolo in Super Bowl 59, led by the play calling and the game plan and the preparation by Moore and head coach Nick Sirianni. Him leaving results in this for Philadelphia. They have not had a lot of continuity at the offensive coordinator spot. This will be Philadelphia's fourth OC in 4 years. Nick Sirianni is adding another head coach to his coaching tree. Jonathan Gannon, Shane Steichen. Now, it's Kellen Moore leaving for New Orleans. For Jalen Hurts, this is his 9th offensive coordinator since 2016, going all the way back to his time at Alabama. With Vic Fangio staying, the Eagles will have some coordinator stability. That was not the case after they lost Super Bowl 57 because they lost Gannon and they lost Steichen. Here, they're going to lose more, but they're going to retain Vic Fangio, which is huge for this team as they try to repeat as Super Bowl champions. And it also means we're going to see another iteration of this Philadelphia Eagles offense in 2025. And I thought Moore did a great job this year. The Eagles finishing 5th in points per game at 29, 8th in yards per game at 366, 11th in yards per play, 11th on third downs, 10th in the red zone as their touchdown scoring percentage in the red area was 58%. That coincided with the Eagles being number 1 in points per game defensively, number 1 in yards per game, number 1 in yards per play, 8th on third downs, and the 6th best red zone defense. And they completely flummoxed Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and that Chiefs offensive attack. And Kellen Moore has put together a pretty damn good resume here, ladies and gentlemen. When he was with the Dallas Cowboys as an OC and a play caller, during his 4-year stint there, he orchestrated a unit that ranked 2nd in the NFL in total offense, scoring offense, and touchdowns, 3rd in first downs per game, 4th in passing offense, 3rd down conversion rate, and 7th in rushing offense. He helped Dallas to 3 playoff appearances, 2 NFC East championships, while mentoring 9 players to a combined 13 Pro Bowl appearances. He went to the Chargers in 2023. Justin Herbert got hurt. Eagles able to hire him. It was a good move by Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni. And this year, he orchestrates a top 10 overall offense. And in the final 2 games for Philadelphia, the Eagles scoring 55 and 40 points to punch their ticket to the Super Bowl against the Commanders. And then against the Chiefs, everybody was talking about how Spags was going to come up with all of these wrinkles and the answers to stop this Eagles offense. Didn't happen. Philadelphia as a team able to score 40 points, of course, 7 of those by way of the Cooper DeJean pick 6. And what stood out to me about Moore this year, prior to him coming to Philadelphia, and the numbers certainly back that up, even though the Cowboys did have good rushing offenses led by Ezekiel Elliott when he was not cooked, is that he adapted his play calling to his personnel and to the strengths of this football team, and the Eagles became a historically great running team. Saquon Barkley ran for more than 2,000 yards in the regular season. He set the record for the most rushing yards in an entire season, regular season and playoffs combined. And the Eagles also set a record for the most rushing yards in a postseason as a team. And so Kellen Moore really catered to his personnel here. He made in-game and in-season adjustments. After the bye week in Week 5, the Eagles became an offense that leaned on their great offensive line and the special player, the Superman-like player. That is Saquon Barkley. That's what good coaches do. And so Saquon went on to have a historic year. Jalen Hurts, after that bye week, played clean ball. And in the 2 biggest games of his career, in my opinion, NFC Championship game and in the Super Bowl, he played flawless outside of that interception in the Super Bowl. But Hurts was incredible in the NFC title bout and in the Super Bowl. And I love the concepts and the window dressing and some of the creativity that we saw from Kellen Moore as well. Eagles in 2023 had an archaic, vanilla, predictable offense. It was hard to watch. Here in 2024, after they were 32nd in pre-snap motion, we saw some pre-snap motion, some fresh concepts from Kellen Moore, and a lot of creativity. Now, will Moore have success in New Orleans? Looks as though he's going to hire Brandon Staley as his DC. Lone years at DC for Staley. Vic Fangio disciple, by the way. He was with the Rams in 2020. Inflated numbers for everybody that year because it was during a COVID campaign. We'll see. I think Staley's a decent defensive mind. I will say that the Saints' outlook is a little bit bleak. Not a lot of talent on that team. I don't think Derek Carr is that legit, but can Kellen Moore bring the best out of him? Will the Saints move on from Derek Carr? I don't think the talent on that team is in a good spot that's going to help out Moore. They don't have a lot of cap space, but it is one of 32 head coaching jobs. Now, coming up next, the big question here for Philadelphia. who will replace Kellen Moore as the next Eagles offensive coordinator. I'm going to talk about my number one candidate and then 9 other candidates who could replace Kellen. Stay tuned for that, but first, today's show sponsored by our friends Tushy. What do they have to offer? You can see for yourself and save big on Tushy by using the code CHAT at hellotushy.com/chat. Me in January, I'm going to eat some more vegetables. I'm going to work out a little bit more. I still worked out, not as much as I wanted to because the Eagles were on this epic Super Bowl run. Me in February, after a week in New Orleans, I just want my butthole to stop burning when I go to the bathroom. Well, the Tushy bidet cleans up after all my bullshit. You think you have problems until you hear another dude fighting for his life in the toilet stall next to you? That's what I heard at Radio Row in New Orleans. Guys, our bowels are a shit show, but your cleanup routine doesn't have to be. 88% of people have already shit the bed on their resolutions, but you can still get your butt right by washing with the Tushy bidet. Even though Kellen Moore is leaving, we're still going to see the tush push. And I'm telling you, you need the Tushy in your life. It's the modern bidet attachment that instantly transforms your bathroom habits and your butt health for life. Instead of wiping yourself raw with toilet paper, Tushy gently removes 99% of bacteria while protecting your natural skin barrier thanks to one natural ingredient, fresh water. Tushy has 2 new ultra sleek bidet seats, Wave and Oasis, with front and rear wash to clean all those hard-to-reach places. The Tushy Wave and Oasis bidets easily attached to your existing toilet. You can do it yourself without the need for additional plumbing or electricity. They even have a quick-release button to remove the seat for instant deep cleaning. It takes about 10 minutes to complete. Literally anybody can do it. And every Hello Tushy bidet comes with a 30-day hassle-free return and a 12-month warranty. So there's still time to get your butt right for life. For a limited time, our listeners get a really good deal. 10% off their first bidet order when you use the code CHAT at checkout. It's 10% off your first bidet order at hellotushy.com with the promo code CHAT. So who is going to replace Kellen Moore as the Philadelphia Eagles' next offensive coordinator? The top internal OC candidate is going to be Kevin Patullo. More on him. He's currently the Eagles' associate head coach, pass game coordinator. He's been with Nick Sirianni alongside him since 2018 when they were both on that Indianapolis Colts staff under Frank Reich. And we asked Nick Sirianni about Patullo during Super Bowl week because the writing was on the wall that Kellen Moore was going to leave, and Sirianni spoke glowingly of him, how Patullo helps him with his head coaching duties. He will run a lot of things through Patullo as far as those head coaching duties, and then Patullo is firmly a part and has been firmly a part of the Eagles' offensive game plans. And I did what smart people do. I knew that Kellen Moore was going to get the Saints head coaching job. So I saw Patullo waiting around the Eagles hotel. I went up to him and I said, "Can I have a few minutes? Can I interview you?" And I asked him a few questions. What is your role with this Eagles offensive coaching staff for people who don't know? And what is your offensive philosophy? Here's a few minutes with Patullo, and then we'll talk about other Eagles offensive coordinator candidates to replace Kellen Moore.
You're trying.
Hey, it's all good.
Come here, speak this way.
Nick was talking earlier about how you've been his right-hand man for a little while. The casual fan doesn't really know your role or your name or how you handle things behind the scenes, but Nick said that sometimes he'll run head coaching managerial duties through you. So can you just explain your role and your relationship with Nick and how you help him through an assortment of things?
Yeah, I think since we got here in 21, him and I have worked very closely together. And some of that stuff's been, like I said, anything from an offensive role or a head coaching type role, and a lot of it can be whether it's staffing, whether it's decisions, personnel, scheduling, things like that. So it's really a lot of the day-to-day stuff that a head coach does. I've been very privileged to be a part of, which has been very, great for my career working forward. And then as far as the offensive stuff, since 21 as well, I've kind of been in the forefront with the offensive coordinator working on everything from day-to-day stuff to planning to the play calling stuff on game day and structuring things. So I've had a unique seat, and it's been great for my career. And wherever it goes, it goes. But I'm very fortunate to be the role I'm in and be trusted for what I do. And it's been a lot of fun working with Nick.
Of course, a lot of talk about Kellen Moore getting that Saints job here in New Orleans, and your name has come up as a potential offensive coordinator candidate for 2025. I'm just curious, from a football nerd standpoint, what is your offensive philosophy? What do you value?
So really, it first comes down to what do the players do best. I learned that as a young coach. Chan Gailey was one of my mentors, and everywhere I was with him, we kind of just did what the players did best. And then from there, you just kind of build a system around the players. I mean, there really is no set system, I don't believe. I think it's what your players do best, and you just build it from there.
Last year, I think the Eagles were 32nd in pre-snap motion. That number's gone up a little bit. Why is it important to have pre-snap motion from a matchup standpoint?
Overall, the more you can do with motion, the more you can create leverage on a defense. So whether it's just moving somebody slightly or moving somebody a little bit more, or the speed of motion, it does create leverage on a defense. It creates conversation, and different things can happen. You don't want to do it just to do it. If it doesn't give you a benefit, you don't really want to do it because it can cause you problems as well on the offensive side. But I think it can definitely help in certain situations. You just have to be careful you're not overdoing it.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Sorry, choking my gum like halfway.
I do that.
So that's Kevin Patullo right there, and I think that Nick Sirianni really trusts him, and that's evidenced by what Sirianni has said about him and them having familiarity with one another, and I think he's a legitimate candidate to take this job. What I would do, I would probably bring in somebody external. When the Eagles promoted Brian Johnson after the 2022 season, I thought they could have used some outside ideas with their offense, and you never know, maybe Nick Sirianni really had a say as far as some of those outside ideas not making its way to the Eagles' offensive system, and then that played a role in them going external with a guy like Kellen Moore, who was very accomplished, and clearly that worked out this season. But I'd go somebody outside of the box, somebody outside of the organization, because I think those fresh ideas and concepts are needed. I think they're valuable, and I think those fresh ideas could lead to a mixing of ideas where you have Nick Sirianni and his offensive vision matched up with another coach and their offensive vision, and then you kind of blend all of that together. And this Eagles team has so much talent on the offensive side of the ball that I think that they can still be one of the top units in the National Football League. Jalen Hurts is an elite quarterback, Super Bowl champion now. You have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, this offensive line, and Saquon Barkley. This is also going to be a coveted job for some of these OCs out there. My top choice, I've talked about Josh McCown here on the show and on my social media pages. He's the Vikings quarterbacks coach. I think that he would be a tremendous hire. Now, he has said, I don't want to leave Minnesota until I'm going to be a head coach. But why I'd hire Josh McCown, I think Josh McCown is the top candidate for the Philadelphia Eagles to replace Kellen Moore as he takes that head coaching job with the New Orleans Saints. He was a quarterbacks coach for Minnesota this year, and Sam Darnold had a career year. They resurrected him off the scrap heap. Everybody thought that Darnold was a bust, but this year he was great. And Josh McCown works under one of the top offensive minds, play callers, and play designers in the National Football League in Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell. And so I'd love to see some of those ideas and concepts come over to Philadelphia. I think that could result in a fireworks offense here in 2025. Philadelphia is also always willing to pay top dollar for coordinators. They gave Kellen Moore a bag to come to Philadelphia. They paid Vic Fangio a lot of money to come to the Eagles. It paid off. Josh McCown has also seen everything that you can imagine in the NFL. He played in the league from 2002 to 2020. He also has familiarity with this Eagles organization. He was the team's backup behind Carson Wentz in 2019. He played in that wildcard playoff game against Seattle once Jadeveon Clowney spearheaded Carson Wentz and knocked him out with that concussion. And then he was actually the Eagles' emergency COVID quarterback, where the Eagles gave him a lot of cash to basically be a part of the team via Zoom and live in Texas while being the COVID emergency quarterback in case of somebody getting sick on the Eagles roster where they needed to bring in a quarterback during the COVID era. weird circumstances. I'm glad that we're well past it. Other Eagles offensive coordinator candidates here who come to mind to replace Kellen Moore. Josh McCown, number one candidate. I'm not putting the others in order. These are just other names who come to mind. Kevin Patullo will be the top internal candidate. I really think that G.J. Kinne is on a fast track to getting a Power 5 job, maybe an NFL coordinator job. He's currently the head coach at Texas State University. Their offense has put up massive numbers. I talked about him a lot last year. He was on this Eagles roster as a preseason practice squad quarterback for several years, and I think his offensive mind has resulted in a lot of great numbers when he's been a head coach at the college level. Bobby Slowik is the former Texans offensive coordinator who did get fired, but C.J. Stroud did win Rookie of the Year back in 2023. Slowik is a Kyle Shanahan understudy if you want to bring some of those concepts to Philadelphia. Frank Reich, of course, the former Panthers and Colts head coach. He was on this Eagles staff under Doug Peterson when they won the Super Bowl. Chad O'Shea working on that Browns staff under Kevin Stefanski. He is currently on that staff as an offensive assistant. David Girardi is Patrick Mahomes' quarterbacks coach with the Kansas City Chiefs. Matt Nagy, former head coach of the Chicago Bears, currently the Chiefs offensive coordinator. You have Jerrod Johnson, who was retained by the Texans. That speaks volumes. They think highly of him, and they retained him despite moving on from Bobby Slowik. The Eagles, of note, did interview him last year alongside Kellen Moore and Cliff Kingsbury. Those are the only offensive coordinators they interviewed in that cycle a year ago. And then there's Doug Nussmeier, who currently is the Eagles quarterbacks coach. His son is Garrett Nussmeier, the current quarterback for LSU. There's some buzz that Kellen Moore could bring him with him to New Orleans, as they have familiarity on the Cowboys coaching staff together and the Chargers coaching staff together. But if the Eagles offered him the offensive coordinator job and he could call plays, would he just stay with Philadelphia? Better coaching situation than with New Orleans. So what say you? Who should the Eagles hire as OC? Let me know down in the comment section who you like. And of course, I'll expand on all of those names coming up on a future show.